At the beginning of 1838, Dickens had become involved in a rather curious undertaking, which was to put into shape the memoirs of the great clown, Joey Grimaldi, whom Dickens idolised, though he'd only seen him as a boy, or almost a baby. But the whole notion of Grimaldi and clowning was very, very dear to Dickens's heart. And so basically what he was doing was taking on the improvement of a ghost-written autobiography of Grimaldi, with passages by the great clown himself. So it was a pretty delicate undertaking and hard work, actually. In the end, it turned out to be very successful commercially. But Dickens was rather vexed by a critic who accused him of not being qualified to write about Grimaldi because he hadn't really seen very much of his work. And this is Dickens' rather magisterial, though quite amusingly magisterial reply, which he sketched out as from the editor of Bentley's Miscellany, because it was Bentley, his publisher of the Miscellany and of course of Oliver Twist, who was going to publish the Grimaldi memoirs. This is a letter from the editor, namely Dickens, to the sub-editor, presumably to be included in the paper, though I don't think it ever was. Concerning Grimaldi, a letter from the editor to the sub-editor. My dear sir, I understand that a gentleman unknown is going about this town privately informing all ladies and gentlemen of discontented natures that on a comparison of dates and putting together of many little circumstances which occur to his great sagacity, he has made the profound discovery that I can never have seen Grimaldi, whose life I have edited, and that his biography, therefore, must consequently and of necessity be bad. Now, sir, although I was brought up from remote country parts in the dark ages of 1819 and 1820 to behold the splendour of Christmas pantomimes and the humour of Joe, in whose honour, I am informed, I clapped my hands with great precocity, and although I even saw him act in the remote times of 1823, yet as I had not then aspired to the dignity of a tailcoat, although I have been forced by a relentless parent into my first pair of boots, I am willing, with the view of saving this honest gentleman further time and trouble, to concede that I had not arrived at man's estate when Grimaldi left the stage, and that my recollection of his acting are, to my loss, but shadowy and imperfect, which confession I now make publicly and without mental qualification or reserve to all whom it may concern. But the deduction of this pleasant gentleman, that therefore the biography must be necessarily bad, I must take leave through you to deny, although upon the question of fact I leave the public to decide between us. I never heard it established as a sound position before that to write a biography of a man, having genuine materials, or to edit his own notes, it is essential that you should have known him. Parvis componere magna. I am not aware that either Hazlitt or Scott was on terms of close intimacy with Napoleon Bonaparte, or ever saw him in action. Neither do I apprehend that Lord Braybrooke had more than a very slight acquaintance with Mr. Pepys, whose memoirs he edited 2 centuries after he died, or that Plutarch had a personal knowledge of all the gentlemen whose lives he wrote, or that Dr. Johnson was on visiting terms with the Earl of Rochester, or, in short, that any author, sitting himself down to a similar task, has felt himself bound, or been considered bound, to prove, speaking literally, his familiar acquaintance with his subject. Do, sir, make a corner for this letter, so that my small word may find its way where this merry gentleman found his. Your faithful colleague to command, Boz. You attacked Dickens at your peril.